Across the pond we go to the home of British motor racing, the Silverstone circuit enriched in motorsport history with 7 decades worth of it. The former World War II airbase is the site of the beginning of the second half of the North American Racing League's second season. Welcome to the virtual Northamptonshire, United Kingdom. João Paulo Costa and Trey Shuttlesworth are alongside me, Emerson Arden this evening, filling in for the usual Andrew Carnelli IV. For tonight's coverage of the North American Racing League here at the Silverstone Circuit, and North American Racing League is brought to you by, of course, Race Lab, TAM Liveries, and JS Consulting. Now, JP, we're here at Silverstone, a loaded track map in terms of corner names, because there's just so much that goes on around here. Let's take a walk through the track, why don't we?
Thank you for having me, Emerson. It's a pleasure to be back here in the NARL. I'm happy to be back, and as you mentioned, it's a perfect circuit. I absolutely love this. Obviously, it's meant to be more for F1 and high downforce circuits, but I mean high downforce cars, but it works in each and every single category. And as you mentioned, the track map, well, it's a big one. I mean, it takes quite a lot of time. As you can see, you go flat out, obviously, through turns 1 and 2, flat out in a Formula 1 car, not quite in a GT car, a bit of braking going on there, and then you line yourself up for turns 3, 4, and 5, a really slow technical section that you can make up positions, but you really have to line up your exit properly on the exit of turn 5 as you head into the Wellington Straight, what's considered the main straight, a really good overtaking opportunity as you head deep down into turn 6 Brooklands, a really late apex, so we could see some moves be thrown down the inside, and then you go for a long right-hander left field. You really have to go tight to protect that inside line, but you can also take a wide line to get a nice cutback line into Woodcut and Cobbs. Obviously, we've seen plenty of action there happening not only on the sim but also in real life with Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen colliding on turn 9. So we could expect some side-by-side racing there. As you exit turn 9, you go into the fast and just amazing section of turns 10, 11, 12, and 13, Maggots and Beckett's and Chapel. Such a fun sequence of corners to get it right. And then obviously on the turn 14 on the exit, you get into the hanger straight, the back straight, and then you get into Stowe, turn 15, a really fast right-hander. You can really throw the car in there. Be careful not to go too wide because it's really easy to get an off track. And then you head into Vale, turn 16, a really sharp left-hander, pretty much 90 degrees, and then you line yourself for turn 17 and 18. And that's a lap around Silverstone. It's a long track, Emerson. You can see a Formula 1 track record, it's a 127. The LMP1 takes 10 seconds extra, but a GT car takes nearly 2 minutes. A 1 minute 58 is the record in a 2018 Lamborghini. And, well, that's the kind of times we're looking at the practice sheets.
Yeah, absolutely. The practice sheets are showing 1 minute 59s across the top of the practice charts, and it's something we'll take a look at here in a few moments. But of course, thank you, JP, for again the excellent walkthrough through the amazing Silverstone circuit, a beautiful circuit, and it's relatively it's not often that we talk about circuits being beautiful that are as flat as Silverstone, but it really is just a beautiful circuit, greenery on both sides of the track. And it's a lot of high-speed corners. The art of racing around Silverstone is something. But of course, thank you all for tuning in this evening on our Facebook or YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter platforms tonight. And we have some point standings to go through, of course. We'll talk about those driver standings. Of course, the pro category on the left side, the amateur category on the right side. Pedro de Oliveira, the points leader overall in the pro category. Of course, 156 points and a couple wins to his credit. Matthew Dench only 7 points behind. Starting to get really tight at the top of the point standings in the pro category. Mikel Ruderbush, 11 back. Scott Reister, 18 back. Bryce Rodriguez, 21 back. Brian DeVries, 28 points back. Kevin Sandiego, 30. Jackson Resende, 31, and Fabio Zamperlini, 32, with Blake Scott rounding out the top 10, 42 points back in the pro category. But JP, how about this amateur category?
The amateur category is absolutely close as well. Brian Long with 108 points, just 5 points ahead of Diego Ari. And as you can see, on the points, on the amateur points, only one driver has a win, and that's Brian Long. He got the win last time out in Belle Isle, really tricky track. Diego Ari only 5 points behind him. Willie Coffey 10. Matthew Casey 14 points behind Brian Long. And then it kind of does get close between Matthew Casey and Joshua Benjamin. Only 1 point separating those two. And then we skip 5 points behind Jose Antonio Ramos, 20 points behind the leader. Pablo Ferretti only 21. And then look at this. Daniel Hall 25. Don Angelico 26, and Mike Braun 27 points. So it's absolutely close. And I mean, as we've seen from last time out, in Detroit, the point standing will absolutely shake up with one bad weekend. Matthew Dench got his second win of the season, shot himself back up into second place. Pedro de Oliveira quite lost a bit of the ground that he had built up in first place, and I mean, some other drivers, I mean, absolutely kicking off. So, I mean, we can expect a massive race in. Well, the point standing for the teams, it's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll look at, of course, the two different team standings. Of course, Duck Hawk Racing, top of the pro category of team standings. Full Time Esports, only 10 points back. They're trying to close the gap. Of course, Resende and Temperlini, prime competitors. They're Dark Horse Esports, 43 points back in 4th. SDS Racing, 75 points back in 5th. Evolution Racing, 81 points back in 6th. And then we got a little further back here. Some work to do, but still some time to do it in the second half of the season for Pacific Sim, Kyle's Latin Gamers, Ram Racing, and Extreme Speed, JP.
Yeah, exactly. Those teams obviously do have a bit of ground to cover up. Obviously, Pacific Sim is carried alone by Mikael Rudebusch, who's doing a fantastic job on that team. And obviously, when you look at the amateur points categories, it's kind of close as well. Rabbit Chase leading the charge with 185 points, only 11 points ahead of Team Empire Blue. Wahuka Racing 34 points behind. Scar Racing 65 points behind. Kind of a bad luck last time out. And then, well, obviously, it backs off. Unfortunately, we do have some teams that are quite struggling a bit. But, I mean, it's so close between the pro category and the amateur category. And it just, as I mentioned, one race can really shake up. So it's really important to be consistent on this championship if you want to keep those points ahead of another team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, we usually have the schedule as well to talk about. And what we do, I mean, of course, coming up tonight, of course, is the beautiful Silverstone circuit event. Of course, we're off next Thursday for Thanksgiving. And then we'll be back December 2nd with the Hungaro Ring. How about December 9th, Phillip Island? And December 16th to round up the season at Road America, JP. How about the rest, this second half of the schedule, coming with Silverstone, Hungaro Ring, Phillip Island, and Road America? Well, that is the slate to round out the second half of the second season for the North American Racing League schedule. Of course, got to give a huge shout out to all of the partners here at the North American Racing League, of course. Race Lab, TAM Livery, and JS Consulting. Race Lab, of course, helps you to improve your driving skills with modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration. You can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. JS Consulting provides custom website and app development, including the iRacing League website design and hosting. JS Consulting, you can find them at johnsedlak.com. And TAM Liveries offers custom packages for some of the best livery designs in iRacing, used by both pros and amateurs. You will definitely look good on the track. And of course, you have to give a shout out to all of our partners here at PitStopTV, like those of course, Tucson Sound Art. Your picture, your music. You provide the image that you want, and we will custom create a beautifully framed, high-quality canvas with a built-in Bluetooth speaker. With Sound Art, you get the best of both worlds. Visit TucsonSoundArt.com for additional info and use promo code PitStopTV at checkout and receive 10% off of your purchase. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy. With locations in Auburn, Lewiston, Naples, and Saco, Maine, Permanent Makeup and Cryo in-Maine owner Ashley Boyer is a certified micropigmentation specialist who provides professional, safe, and personalized services. You can contact Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine at permanentmakeupinmaine.com, or you can call or text them at 207-358-8683. Whiplash Media specializes in various sim racing resources, including paint schemes, stream overlays, iRacing camera packs, and more. The official graphic and camera provider of PitStopTV, and you can grab your iBroadcast cameras today at www.pitstoptv.com. And of course, a huge shout out to our friends at BAM Racing Videos, by a race fan for the racing community. Now, JP, under a minute left here in practice from the Silverstone circuit. We'll kind of go ahead and take a look at the top of the chart. The top of the charts, of course, it's Pedro de Oliveira S at the top of the standing. Scott Rice there in second, and that's very tight right behind Scott Rice. So look at that. Matthew Dench, Jackson Resende, and Bruno Alcaraz, the top five. And Brian DeVries, Fabio Zamperlini. Oh my goodness, the margins, they're so tight from Matthew Dench really on down.
Yeah, remember when I told you last time out we were together on the ovals that I was kind of surprised by how close the time was? Well, Matthew Dench and Jackson Resende separated by 1/1000th of a second on a lap time that's over 1 minute and 59 seconds. So it's crazy to see how close the timing sheets are. Obviously, it's all up for grabs. We have some drivers practicing the pit entry. It's also really important. It's a really tricky pit entry and really heavy braking zone. And, well, something we're kind of used to seeing Pedro de Oliveira with that one lap pace of his. It's a really strong qualifying. He's a really strong qualifier. So we got to keep our eyes on him. Kevin San Diego coming out of Chapel, and unfortunately that's going to be practice. So now we're going to turn our eyes into qualifying, and, well, 10 minutes for these drivers. It's all on the table. Pressure is going to be all up high because, well, you really need to get a good qualifying position no matter which track you are, because starting further ahead gives you a better chance of winning.
And they're off in their solo qualifying attempts. And if I recall, most of my time covering sports cars here on the channel, JP, I think back to more the Pacific Challenge with, the group qualifying. So the single car qualifying, there's pros and cons to it. Of course, the pros is, of course, it's just you and the racetrack. The cons, of course, is if maybe you aren't up there in pace, you can still learn over the course of the next 10 minutes from other drivers. You can even get some slipstream to help you out, all that sort of stuff. But I do like this single car qualifying. We'll be keeping, of course, track of a lot of drivers throughout the evening tonight. And I don't know what really to make of it. I just know what kind of a regard maybe the Ford is kind of held to. But how about Fabio Zamperlini? He has come out today in the Ford GT3. I'm very intrigued to see how it performs tonight. The Ford GT3 was 6th quickest last I checked on the practice charts.
Yeah, Fabio Zamperlini, I'm not pretty sure what the thing is. I'm pretty sure he's challenging himself because on the previous races, he was on the Audi. The Audi wasn't the fastest car around the circuits, but he still provided good results. This time out, he's on the Ford. I'm pretty sure he's going to be the only Ford on the grid. So, I mean, it's crazy. The reigning champion kind of showing, how well he can drive each and every single car. Obviously, it's going to be a major challenge. This car is not up to pace compared to the other ones, but I mean, he made it work on practice. He posted a really competitive lap time. Now the question is, how fast is this car on a one lap pace? And after that, how well is it on a full stint of fuel?
It'll be intriguing to see for sure. And I kind of want to shift our attention to the amateur category, and we'll ride on board here. Coming to start his lap, this is driver number 177. This is Diego Ere. He is 5 points back of point leader Brian Long in this category, and he's coming up to speed right now. This will be an intriguing lap. We're going to ride on board with Ere through the first part of this qualifying lap. But JP, 5 points over the course of the next 4 races. That points battle at the top of the amateur category that you covered. It's gonna be something very intriguing to keep in mind, because of course that gets mixed in with some of the pro drivers. Some of the drivers at the front end, amateur field, can mix it up with some pro drivers, and the points can get skewed one way or another with all that. That's what I love about this series. Even though there's 2 different classes, more or less 2 different categories of drivers, it's all one car class, so we can still see that kind of a mix of I guess category class racing.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, with that, drivers of different classes, they do take different approaches. Sometimes we have amateur drivers that don't really like to race pro drivers. They just allow them to be there, even though they might be quicker. Obviously, some other amateur drivers like to defend and like to attack, and really just shows the difference, in mentality of some of them. Some of them like to take a little bit easier. Some of them like to attack more. Obviously, on this latter part of the season, we're probably going to see some drivers attacking more. And obviously, as you mentioned, the battle for the championship is going to be closer than ever. It's really close on the amateur and on the pro side. So every point matters. And obviously, if you're trying to get as many points as possible, you really need a good qualifying. So far, Diego Ari is putting a really good lap time. And now we switch to Matthew Dench, our last time winner. Absolutely dominated last time out on Detroit. Currently, I'm pretty sure he's in the McLaren, so he's essentially replicating the car that won him last week. It's a really tricky car, and I was gonna point this out, Emerson. On a track like this, are you going for a car that could be tricky and fast, knowing how the nature of the circuit, or you go for more of a safer car like the BMW or the Mercedes?
Oh man, I don't know. Kevin San Diego, by the way, sets the first lap time of the qualifying session. Then Brian DeVries will follow, and now time's going to be coming in. So we'll get time, and it's going up on the left side of your screen. But to answer your question, JP, I mean, there's a lot of high-speed corners. You really want to put yourself in the best position to succeed through those corners. And it comes down to driving style for sure. For me, I like a little bit of a freer race car, one that can maneuver a lot. But I know if I push a little too hard, I probably would be the one spinning it out.
Yeah, and that's the challenge that the drivers, I guess, of the McLaren, of the Audi, and the Lamborghini will face. That's a car that can really snap on you, as Alcaraz goes second quickest, nearly half a second behind Pedro de Oliveira. So, again, that qualifying pace really showing. The driver of the Porsche, it's really nice to see a Porsche up ahead. It's a car that I really do like, and he looks like he's starting his second lap, currently exiting turn 5, heading to the Wellington Straight. And, well, it's just so nice to see these GT cars going around at Silverstone. No, it's a really high-speed corner. Obviously, not anywhere near close to F1 style speed, but, I mean, it's still fast, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Racing vehicles are still race cars. And that's what we have tonight here, of course, with these GT3 cars taking to the, again, very historically rich Formula 1 circuit. Again, 70 years of Formula 1 racing, or I guess, and then some, with the Silverstone circuit. It's quite the sight, and I'm loving that other racing series, come here and, try their hand at running through. This is my favorite part of the circuit right here, right now. Maggots and Beck. It's really everything from Lufeld all the way to Stowe. That is a fun section of straights and corners.
100%, and there's absolutely no margin of error when you're talking about these big guys, because I mean, if you just go wide on one of those corners, it's absolutely going to compromise your whole sector. So it's a really tricky part, and on the race, it could really play out as a big part. If you just make a small mistake, you're going to be losing tons of times. As Fabio Zamperlini right now, he's finishing up exiting Chapel, and he's going to be lining himself up for the backstraight for the hangar straight. Bryce Rodriguez, he's going to be putting his car on 3rd place. He's not going to be improving on his 2nd lap. So looks like the 1st lap might be the quickest lap for these guys. Obviously, such a long lap, you don't really get a lot of time to essentially wait it out. Fabio Zamperlini is going to be finishing off his lap. And while coming into the final sector, big braking zone, again, that 90-degree left-hander, you really have to get close to the apex. Don't ride out the sausage curve. As you can see, he gets really close on the exit. Just line yourself up. Try to go as flat as possible. Take it to the line of least resistance, a 159.5.
Wow.
And he's going to be going 5th place. So on the Ford, that's a really good qualifying. Only 0.003 of a second behind Kevin Sandiego, and only, 7 thousandths behind Bryce Rodriguez.
Yeah. That's crazy. The gap between himself and 3rd place, 7 1,000ths. He could easily have been on the podium. He's still going for more right away. He's on his 3rd lap right now. Yeah, this is 3rd lap right now for Zamperlini. So we'll see what he can do. Looking a little further on back, we'll go ahead and find our way. How about Mark Scott, who's currently working his way around the track? Mark Scott, I believe, is right now the leader in the amateur category, or I guess the pole sitter in the amateur category right now, down in the 14th position overall. Nearly 2 seconds off the pace of Pedro de Oliveira. But of course, he's right there, his class not too far behind. Mark Scott practicing his pit entry here from full speed. Let's see this. Flying into that pit entry.
Yeah, you have to really fly, and then you really have to step on the brakes, hit the pit limiter, and you just hope that the car will slow down for you to not get a speed limit penalty on the pit lane. Diego Ari currently finishing up his lap time. He's not going to be improving, goes really wide on the final corner, and unfortunately for him, he's going to be sticking with his position. Something I found interesting, if we look at the bottom end of the top 10, Matthew Dench, 0.7 of a second. Jackson Resende 1 second behind his teammate. That's not something I was expecting coming in, especially after the practice times. He's gonna be finishing up his 2nd lap. Looks like he's on the Ferrari, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, there we go. That's the improvement right there. All right, he goes to 5th place, but still half a second. That's a really good, strong qualifying from Pedro de Oliveira.
5th place for Jackson Resende out of Full Time Esports and his beautiful red, black, and white Ferrari there, the number 225, Jackson Resende. Working his way now. I think this is just some extra practice for all these drivers, staying up to pace, up to par as qualifying comes to a close. A couple more drivers still working around on their final laps. You have William Valdez on the end of his third lap as he works into the Vale chicane. Here he goes in the number 128 Ferrari. The amateur category, William Valdez trying to improve from 18th position, and he will not improve on his third lap, and that will be it for him. Here comes Scott Kimbrough into Stowe. Does he have time to get back to the start-finish line?
Oh, it's gonna be absolutely
Oh, well, scratch that.
Oh, there we go. That's the thing we're talking about. A really fast corner with a car that can easily snap. Something that might happen in the race. Daniel Hall looks like he's not going to be able to finish. Currently on a 4-minute lap time, so not 100% ideal. But yeah, it's practice. You know, it's the start of the race. This is going to get hectic, and well, tire life might be a playing factor here. We all know how harsh Silverstone is on track, so on those tires. So it could be interesting to see how those cars react on the final few laps of the race.
It's time to go through our starting lineup. Of course, row number 1, it'll be Pedro de Oliveira, and to his outside will be Bruno Alcaraz. Row number 2, it'll be Bryce Rodriguez and Kevin Sandiego. Row 3, Jackson Resende and Fabio Zamperlini. Row number 4, how about Scott Reister and Mikael Ruderbusch? And in row number 5, it'll be Matthew Danchin and Brian DeVries. JP?
In row number 6, we're going to have Scott Kimbrough in the 211 and the 259 of Guilherme Carretoni in 12th place. 13th place, we're going to have Blake Scott in the 267, and we're going to be looking at 14th place for our amateur pole sitter, William Coffey. In 15th place, we're going to have Mark Scott in the 166 Lamborghini and the 176 of Ryan Long in 16th place. In 17th place, we're going to have Jeff Castillo in the 110 and the 128 of William Valdez on 18th place. And row number 10, we're going to have Joshua Benjamin in the 178 and the 113 of Pablo Ferretti in 20th place.
Row 11, it'll be Rob Rodriguez in the 226, Mike Braun in the 107. 23rd, it'll be Matthew Casey, Diego Ere in the 24th position in the 177. Row 13, it'll be Pierre Thompson in the 218, Sonny Brown in the 115 there in 26th. Row 14, it'll be Chris Winstone in the 137, Scott Angelo in the 168 there in 28th. And in row number 15, it'll be Dominic Angiclio and Radmes Rodriguez there in 30th.
In 31st place, we're going to have Armando Bejarran in the 105 and the 101 of Clarence Rosa in 32nd place as the cars are going to be ready to start the race. Johnny Jones in the 142 is going to be starting 33rd, and 34th place for Sean Patterson in the 154. In 35th place, we're going to have Kenneth Michael in the 119 and the 172 of Daniel Hall in 36th place. 37th place and last car on the grid is going to be the 102 of Billy Bowerman.
That is our grid as the field of 37 GT3 vehicles works its way through the Vale chicane and roaring up to speed at about 50 miles an hour. They're coming out of Vale now on their way to club up to about 60 miles an hour and onto the front straightaway. Pedro de Oliveira is going to lead us to the green here at Silverstone. We had a car off in the back. One of those vehicles that is, I believe, it's going to be the 105 of Armando Bejarran going around there off of the club corner there. He's going to get up to speed once again, but a tough start for Bejarran. Up ahead, Fabio Zamperlini is up into the loop. He's going around.
Oh no, he got a touch right there on turn, looks like turn number 4, and unfortunately got spun around, so a terrible start for Fabio. Oh, it's only going to get worse for him. Looks like that car is going to be nursing. Oh, a lot of damage. So he got damage on the front end and on the rear end of that Ford. Definitely not ideal.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, though, JP, they do have fast repairs. His competitive night may be over, but he may be able to still, work his way up through the running order and salvage some sort of a day tonight in a 50-minute race.
Yeah, but unfortunately for him, if he does like to take the fast repair right now, he's going to be struggling a lot because the pit time on this track is absolutely massive, so he will be losing a lot of time. So right now it's a big challenge for him to decide what to do. Does he carry damage? Does he pit for repairs? And I mean, there's no point in changing tires, there's no point in filling up with fuel. It's going to be a really tricky challenge. But currently for our leader, I mean, it's the same thing. He's pulling away in the Lamborghini. Looks like we have a 1-2 for Lamborghinis, followed by a few Ferraris. So Full-time esports with a dream. Looks like, is that Jackson Resende coming under pressure?
Resende up here in 5th. Here he is. He will work his way on by on around. Goes to
Oh!
288. That's Kevin Sandiego.
Terrible start for Kevin Sandiego. He was defending from a Porsche, and unfortunately for him, he got spun around. Looks like on turn 15, he's going to be losing tons of positions as we have battles all throughout the grid. Oh, he's going to be going. Someone's going to be going down his inside. I'm not quite sure who that is. He's dropped all the way down into 20th place. Looks like. So from 4th place all the way outside the top 15. Terrible, terrible first lap for him.
Back up front, Mikel Ruderbusch is not done with Jackson Resende. They go at it for the 4th position. Resende trying to open the gap in his Ferrari compared to the performance sim of Mikel Ruderbusch right there in the 222.
Looks like the 222 is extremely racy. The Lamborghinis are extremely racy on this track, so it could play dividend on some of the weeks that the Ferrari has been dominant. Looks like the weight has shifted. Jackson Resende has a safety gap, but still elects to go a bit defensive. And further ahead, looks like Bruno Alcaraz is still in 3rd place, chasing those guys up ahead. But looks like the battle for 4th place is definitely not over. We're going to have to see where the Lamborghini is stronger than the Ferrari and vice versa.
My apologies. Proper credit to Pacific Sim Motorsport. Of course, Mikel Ruderbusch represented there in the 5th position. Trying to see what he can do with Jackson Resende just in front.
It's going to be a big challenge. He's going to have to line himself up, as you can see, getting really close to those track limits. It's so easy to get a penalty. It could be interesting to see if we're going to have any drive-through penalties for instant points as they're lining themselves up for that fast sequence of corners. I absolutely love this. And we have 3 cars from 3 different makers, as we do have a Porsche followed by a Ferrari followed by a Lamborghini. So 3 different cars, 3 different handlings on the same circuit. That's just amazing to see.
And that's always the fun of sports car racing. As always, JP, we watch, maybe, IMSA or the World Endurance Championship or other forms of sports car racing throughout the world. And it's just amazing to see the plethora of car manufacturers entered into the sport. And, of course, that's no different with iRacing, of course, getting the rights to all these vehicles from real life and putting them on the track, on the sim virtually. Pedro de Oliveira, of course, going fastest with his 1.4 second advantage out in front of Bryce Rodriguez. And we continue to keep our eyes on this battle for the 4th position. That is starting to dissipate a little bit. Mikel Ruderbusch lost a few tenths that lap to Resende, about 2 tenths that lap to Resende. But Resende not far from Mikel Ruderbusch. Say a mistake happens, or say Resende gets into it with Alcaraz, and then we could see Ruderbusch get up there, maybe make it a 3-car battle for that 5th position, as you were already alluding to, JP.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like Alcaraz is kind of gapping both of them, kind of found his pace, his rhythm once again. It's going to be interesting to see if his Porsche has a bit of damage on the front end after the lap 1 collision, but looks like it doesn't. Looks like he just has plenty of pace to drive away from Jackson Resende and Mikel Ruderbusch. And Jackson really posting a good lap time right now. Looks like the Ferrari is stronger on the straights, but the Lamborghini just can't catch up so quickly on those middle parts, as you can see, kind of just closing in and then just losing a bit of gap on those straights. The Ferrari just has such a strong engine and, well, can just drive away, but the Lamborghini seems to be very, very handy on those middle parts, as, Pedro de Oliveira absolutely driving away from the field.
Driving away from the field. Let's go to the amateur category with Mark Scott. He's up here in the 7th position overall. His next closest competition in his category is 7 seconds back. Oh no, and he's gone off the course there in Beckett's. He's going to have to give up the spot here to De Vries and potentially give up the spot.
That's going to be a slowdown.
Oh, that is a slowdown penalty. He's got to give up the spot there to Guillermo Carretoni as well there. He falls back to the 9th position. Well, so much for having that 7-second advantage in his category. He still has, looks like, a 4.5 second advantage, but what could have been, and I guess still is.
It would have been a great haul of points for Scott Racing. His son, Blake Scott, was on 6th place. He was right behind him last time out in Belle Isle. Both of them had amazing runs, but unfortunately, both of the races came to a close, to abrupt ends. But, well, they're trying to fight back. It was a perfect 6th and 7th place for them. It was going to be a good haul of points. But unfortunately, after that small mistake, he's dropped a lot of positions. And right now, he's under challenge from Kevin Sandiego. There you go. Kevin Sandiego down the inside Looks like Mark is not going to be making his life too difficult. He's going to be trying to line himself up for the exit of turn 5 into the Wellington Straits. Looks like it's not going to be close enough. So Kevin San Diego makes the move work and makes, well, the top 9 a full pro top 9 essentially.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think Mark Scott, after making that mistake out of Beckett, or I guess that's Chapel, really, he made the mistake cutting the corner at Chapel, going off in Beckett's. He, I think, is understanding the situation. He's still got a large margin over his competitors, and in comparison to last week, last week was a 60-minute race with 2 pit stops. Tonight, it's only a 50-minute race. I imagine it's only going to be a one-stopper. Correct me if I'm wrong, JP. And we could, definitely see the strategy kind of playing a one way or another. Now that we're back onto this one-stop kind of racing that we're kind of used to here with these sports cars on PitStopTV.
Yeah, 100%. Last time out, we had a 35% fuel limit,
Right.
so the drivers were forced to make a 2-stop race. It kind of played interestingly. This time we're back to the normal fuel flow limit for these drivers, so we're only going to be seeing 1 stop for them. But it's interesting, it's still on 1 stop. It could really be very, very interesting. It looks like we're going to have a battle developing for 2nd place. Bryce Rodriguez kind of falling under pressure from Bruno Alcaraz. And he's missing the apex, so that pressure from the Porsche kind of building up on the Lamborghini driver. The 299 falling a bit of the pressure, so it's going to be where the Porsche is stronger. But when we talk about strategy, some guys, they like to play different. Some of them, Bruno Alcaraz, they're just going for it. It's not going to be a boost time fuel. You're just going to be straight up attacking. But we do have other drivers like Jack Martinez who like to underfill the car so they can have a track position essentially. So we could be seeing Jack Martinez jump up a few positions just based on that pit cycle, but I'm only time will tell. But currently, looks like it's falling a bit, nearly 2 seconds behind Bruno Alcaraz as he's trying to get past Bryce Rodriguez. Not quite close enough to make a move down to Wellington Street.
Alcaraz trying to see what he can do on Rodriguez here. They work through their way out of the Wellington Straight here into Lutfeld. Very close right there through the center of Lutfeld. Now to come out of Lutfeld, this is Woodcote, and then they're going to be on their way through the old start-finish straight into Copse. And, of course, we know what Copse did on the Formula 1 side of things in real life with, of course, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. I doubt that's what's going to happen here. But you saw Alcaraz with the closing rate on Rodriguez down the old pit straight.
Look at the run.
Here we go. Look at this in the Maggots and Beckett's.
He's not going to be forcing around the outside. You can't really go too wide there on GT cars. It's going to be just essentially a lack of downforce. But that Porsche driver, well, he's fast right now. They're going to be exiting Chapel. Looks like the Lamborghini still has a bit of an advantage as they head to the hangar straight. As you can see, he's going to be stuck on the middle lane, essentially trying to force that Porsche driver to make a decision. Not close enough to go for a dive, as we do have battles further behind. Oh, look at this. The Audi is going to be trying, Scott Kimbrough is going to be trying to pass. Oh, no, that's not Scott Kimbrough. That's Mikael Rudebusch. Oh, that's De Vries. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's De Vries trying to pass Blake Scott.
Blake Scott was under heavy attack through Maggots and Beckett to send up the inside, maybe into Vale. Blake Scott drives it hard into Vale. He'll hold on to that 6th position. A brilliant defense from Blake Scott under heavy pressure, but he's not done yet. And Brian De Vries is going to be absolutely up in the ante as he looks to find his way around Blake Scott. What a phenomenal attack that Blake Scott put on down the hangar straight and into the Vale chicane. And now we're on to the first part of the lap once again. Now does Blake Scott have what it takes to maybe try to baby that gap and kind of maintain it next time we go through the high-speed corners?
Oh, he has damage on the Lamborghini, so that's going to be slowing him down just a tiny bit. You saw that on the front left part of the Lamborghini. The Audi is essentially the same car, shares the same chassis. Pretty sure it's the same engine, there's also just different configurations. So these cars technically should drive essentially the same. So by that logic, Brian De Vries is going to have a small advantage due to that damage.
Looking up the inside through Lutfeld, near contact. Oh, here we go, side by side, out of Lutfeld, onto the old start-finish straight. Blake Scott trying to run him close through the kink, on the way to Cup's corner, side by side. The Audi up the inside.
Oh, Blake's gonna, looks like he's not gonna give up. He's gonna be trying to hold around the outside. He does hold it. Now who's ahead? It looks like Blake Scott is still ahead. Will the Freeze try to hold it around the outside? Not close enough. So I mean, what a defense drive from from Scott right there. That was textbook amazing, even with damage. Look at how much the Freeze is closing up though. He got a really good run on the middle part. Looks like that was on Beckett's. Now he's gonna be losing just a tiny bit of ground. Can we see him move into turn 15? The out is going to be looking down the inside of the outside. Oh, he's going to be diving down the inside. Look at it.
He looks to the inside, but once again, a brilliant defense from Blake Scott as Brian DeVries is exhausting his options, trying to find a way around the 267 of Blake Scott, the 221 of Brian DeVries. Now look who's entering into the picture. We have Garatoni there in the 259. San Diego coming up in the 288. Remember, San Diego had his early problems. He wants to work his way through the running order. DeVries has got to find his way around Blake Scott very quickly here. And now we're back into the first part of the lap again. We're going through Abbey Farm, Village, and the Loop. And this is where I think Blake Scott kind of had an advantage through these slower corners.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like Blake is just so much braver under braking. So he has, I mean, he can just brake so late. It kind of reminds me of Daniel Ricciardo, just, you know, just completely throwing the car in there and hoping it sticks. So it's really interesting. It looks like Caratoni got a bit of a bad exit out of turn 5. He could be falling under pressure from Kevin San Diego. Look at it. Kevin San Diego going down the inside is going to make the move work even before the turn-in zone. So, I mean, fantastic move.
Brilliant stuff as San Diego trying to work his way through the field. Remember, San Diego started closer to the front. Here we go once again. A great run from Brian DeVries. He comes through Woodcote and now on to the Old Star finish straight again. Once again into Cups. This time, I think DeVries might want to wait till after Cups to really make a run at it here. He's going to file in line, and now he's going to get the run into Maggots and Beckett's. Where's he going to go with it?
Looks like he's going to be sticking. I mean, he has to essentially follow the Lamborghini. Try to fall a bit back, as you can see, to try and get a good exit out of turn 15.
Here we go!
Oh, the Lamborghini gets loose, and that's going to allow the Audi to essentially just drive past. That's going to be a free position for the Freeze. He's going to be thanking Blake Scott for that one. I'm not pretty sure that was contact. I'm pretty sure that was just a Lamborghini. Looks like Guilherme Caratoni might be looking for a revenge down into Stowe. Can we see double moves? Looks like no. Blake Scott is going to be holding back. Looks like everybody's going to be falling in line. DeVries, although, is going to have a compromised line. Look at it. Blake Scott is going to be looking down the outside, inside. Looks like he's going to be forced down the outside, and it's going to be sticking with it. Yeah, so looks like DeVries got the position. Blake Scott is going to have to essentially try and get that position back as they head into the final corner in the newly named Hamilton Straight. We kind of forgot to talk about that.
Right.
But yeah, looks like that was an amazing move by DeVries. Kind of free position, but Blake Scott is not done.
Yeah, Blake Scott, even though he was overtaken, we saw how hard he was defending. I wonder if he's using up his stuff. And now, I know they're not going to take tires under a pit stop because, it's only a 50-minute race. But with that being said, you're not going to get fresh tires in this race. You kind of do have to think about, it is an entire 50-minute race on these set of tires. Is he maybe using his stuff up too? Oh, off the track is DeVries! And DeVries is going to go round! Oh, hard into the barrier!
Big crash for DeVries after getting in an absolutely perfect position. Is going to be carrying on. Oh, just how much damage does that Audi have? Oh, that's going to be big damage. I'm not quite sure if it's going to have a black and orange flag, essentially the meatball flag, but oh, that was a big hit.
We're going to try to get the replay queued up here for y'all so we can see what happened to Brian DeVries. And here we go. We're going to get it. Here it is, Brian DeVries. He's being tailed here, of course, by Blake Scott. And this is coming out of the loop. He goes a little wide, coming onto the Wellington Straight. You're not going to actually see a lot of it through that camera angle. We'll get this replay queued up for you one more time, a different view of it, so you can see just how it happened. We saw a lot of it live, but here we go.
You know what that reminds me of, Emerson? The 2014 Kimi Raikkonen crash that he had on that exact same corner. It's pretty much carbon copy of what happened. He's going to be, going a bit wide into turn 5, as you can see. Kind of gets a little bit squirrely on the exit of turn 4, then just kind of lines himself up beautifully. But, I mean, he doesn't steer that much. So, at that point, there's at that point absolutely nothing you can do. He just kept his foot in it, but the car just snapped, overcorrected, hit, essentially side on, but kept going. So, I'm not pretty sure how much damage that is. That's going to be obviously costing him a lot of time lap after lap, but as long as he doesn't have to pit, he might just hold on to it. As you can see, just, yeah, falling under pressure. He's going to be falling through the field right now. But, I mean, if he can wait until the pit stop window opens, he might just be okay.
Yeah, he's going to fall pretty far back down the running order here. That's going to be down to 11th position there for Brian DeVries. And, you know, with that lack, or I guess that damage to the rear wing there, I wonder if he's going to be able to hold on to the spot. He's under heavy attack here from Pablo Ferretti there in the 113, and Pierre Thompson. Ferretti is not for position in the category, but it is a position overall, and then Pierre Thompson is right behind. That is a position in the category, and that's something to look forward to. He also got a 7-second deficit to Scott Kimbrough up the road.
Yeah, he's just going to be falling. As you can see, the Ferrari just has so much more horsepower, so much more straight line speed than him. So that aero deficit, oh, he's going to be making, so no. He has to yield again. So, yeah, he's just going to be falling through the order. It looks like, I'm not quite sure who that just passed him. That was Pierre Thompson just passed him, and the battle for second place is still very much alive. I mean, that gap is still hasn't yet, but Jackson Resende is kind of closing in. So the Ferrari driver finding the pace a little bit lap after lap, but I mean, Bruno Alcaraz still hasn't given up. These guys running within 0.2 of a second for the best part of, what, 15 minutes?
Absolutely. We saw the Porsche enter into maggots there, cut some curbing, and that Porsche was dancing all through the entry in center of maggots and the Beckett's. So you're seeing just how much Bruno Alcaraz is putting on the line. He's going to look to the right side into the Vale corner. Not able to get down there, but maybe trying to get the over-under on Bryce Rodriguez. Rodriguez, of course, not going to let that happen easily in his number 299 Lamborghini. Alcaraz in the Porsche. Here comes Resende in the Ferrari. And you can't look too far now because Mikael Ritterbusch is bringing his Lamborghini into the mix. We're getting ready for a 4-car battle for the second position. All that being said, 5 seconds back of Pedro de Oliveira S.
It's going to be absolutely amazing, and the beauty of the Silverstone circuit is those big braking zones. Big braking zones mean you can go for a really ambitious dive. It's just plenty of opportunities. Obviously, you have one at turn 3. You have one at the end of the Wellington Straight. You have a Stowe that you can really dive. So, I mean, it's definitely a possibility if you really want to go for the move. Look at how close the Porsche driver is right now. He's about 0.2 of a second behind. Not close enough to make a dive, but he's just so brave under braking. He can really, if he tries, I'm pretty sure he can afford it. And, oh yeah, unfortunately for him, looks like Brian DeVries is going to be going down in the pit lane. You can see the fast repair. Could this mean the pit window might be open? Not quite sure. 20 minutes into the race, he might have to stop again.
You know, it's hard to tell. Just because, you know, last, we had the 60-minute race with the 35% fuel loads, but I think we're at that point now where I think he knew he could make it to the end, or he was close to making it to the end, and now he's just going to kind of run this race out and see what he can do. He also grabbed that fast repair, of course, and he's going to continue on with his race, but he's down in the 31st position overall. He just went by Brian Long there for position, but heartbreak there for the 221 of Brian DeVries. Somebody else I want to catch up with here is, how about this driver? The one of Fabio Zamperlini, and trying to, accurately depict him here. He's up there in the 23rd position. I believe so. Actually, he's in 23rd right there. You remember the damage he got on the opening lap. He's trying to work his way through this running order. Remember, he fell all the way back to the rear end of the field. Fabio Zamperlini now working his way through Maggots and Beckett's and trying to see what he can get here out of, I believe that's Dominique Angelecchio and Rob Rodriguez right in front of him.
Yes, it is. So right now, I mean, Fabio essentially has to go for full-on attack mode. He just has to go for it. He has a lot of damage. As you can see, the move being done ahead of him. Looks like that's going to be... Is that going to be Angelico just diving down the inside? Looks like those two Ferrari drivers are going to be going side by side. That's really going to help.
Here comes Zamperlini.
Fabio Zamperlini. So the pit window is open. So that's going to be interesting to see, as those drivers ahead of him, Benjamin and Angelico, still going to go going side by side. So another driver diving for the fast repair is going to be filling up that tank, and, well, back on the racing he goes.
And I think that's the play, right? If you have damage, just run it as long as you can until you're in that fuel window. You don't want to run any longer with a damaged vehicle. You want to, just run as long as you absolutely have to, and then try it again with, a fresh car. Hopefully it doesn't get any damage. With the field as spread as it is now, you should be in a much better position to not take on that kind of damage, and maybe you can make up some time that you've been missing. Want to kind of highlight. Oh, and around goes somebody as soon as we cut there. Trying to figure out who that was. Might have been somebody. Was that Scott Reister? No. Oh goodness, who was that? Trying to figure out who that was. Not Bowerman, I don't believe. No. Bowerman's on the pit lane.
That was a big crash, and on the middle of the straight as well. So I mean, whoever that was, that might have been racing and the crash. I'm just looking, Emerson, on the timing sheets. Matthew Dench is 4 laps down.
Matthew Dench has had some sort of fault in this race. He is out of the event, and remember the win that he had last week at Detroit, or well, 2 weeks. No, it was last week at Detroit Belle Isle. Look at what you know put him up to now. All of a sudden, all that gets washed away with the run today being, you know, last car scored in 37, 4 laps down.
Yeah, exactly. All that hard work is absolutely undone, and that just goes to show, and that's really going to shake up the championship, as we do have a 4-car battle, looks like for 22nd place, is that correct? And, you know, last week was completely the opposite. Matthew Dench had an absolutely amazing race as the Lamborghini dives into the pit lane, and Pedro de Oliveira, the championship leader, had an absolutely terrible race by his standard, finishing in 8th place, and this week is the complete opposite. Pedro de Oliveira in 1st place, and unfortunately Matthew Dench is going to be DNFing, looks like.
Blake Scott is in the pit lane, and it is that time you want to be watching the pit lane, seeing which drivers do take to the pit lane. Blake Scott being one of those drivers, and we'll see if that drags some of the competitors he was racing into the pit lane with him. Of course, tires isn't the advantage, but it's when you get that fuel, how you split that fuel. I think we're coming up to the lap where a lot of drivers are going to pit, which is about halfway through this race coming up here, and I think Blake Scott was able to get that undercut, if you will, on his competitors. We'll see what everybody decides to do when they come around.
Yeah, exactly. This could be, obvious, as you mentioned, an undercut, you know, different strategy. Some drivers will elect to essentially just hold down until the last possible fuel drop. So, you know, only time will tell, but this could be an interesting challenge from Blake right here. And, well, just excited to see how it will work out, as looks like that's going to be, is that Jackson Resende and Bruno? No,
that was Kevin San Diego and Guillermo Garatoni coming down the hangar straight there. We're just trying to see if they were pitting. Looks like they continue on. Of course, Pedro de Oliveira S just will continue on his merry way. He'll maybe pit when that thing runs out of fuel, if anything.
And he still have plenty of gap. 6 seconds is, I mean, it's a long gap. It's essentially at Silverstone. Even though you lose quite a lot of time, you know, he has plenty of time to try to be undercutted, and still won't work out, as you do have a lot of battles further behind. Looks like that's a lapped car getting out of the way of Bryce Rodriguez, as this 4-car battle is still essentially quite on, as we do have another car in the pit lane. That's going to be Mark Scott. So the second of Scott Racing's vehicles is going to be going down in pit lane. Similar strategy for both of them. So just the question is, can he make that work? If you come out in clean air and can put out some qualifying laps, this could really pay off.
Absolutely. And Mark Scott, of course, in that amateur category, he was up there. He was, I believe, the leader in his category. You got to start looking, though. Pablo Ferretti was working his way up and up the running order. So it'll be intriguing to see where does Mark Scott come out in relation to Pablo Ferretti when the pit stops have been completed. Of course, Mark Scott just gained the fuel-only service. He is down and away. And the thing about this Silverstone pit lane, and it's talked about all the time when we talk about, you know, practice and qualifying and then the race in Formula One here at the Silverstone circuit, is that pit entry and how you shortcut the chicane and club corner, veil the chicane and club corner over there, and how that could be an advantage, you know, when you come into pit lane. And it part of the strategy is how that pit lane is designed.
Exactly. I remember a few years ago where I'm pretty sure it was in an F1 game where it was actually faster on the final lap if you just took the pit lane and just took the checkered flag on the pit cycle. So obviously obviously the speed limit is so low to prevent drivers from doing that. And yeah, it's a challenge on its own. You're coming full speed out of tow and you really have to stop the car. I'm pretty sure it's 80 kilometers an hour, might be 60 as well on this track. So, and other than that, Emerson, it's a massive pit lane.
And here we go. Now a lot of
Oh,
drivers are coming in. This is Jackson Resende. He's following down the pit lane. I believe that is that's the Porsche there. Yeah, that is the
yeah, it's
244
Bruno
Bruno
Alcaraz.
Alcaraz.
Yeah, both drivers are coming down into the lane. Look at how much Jackson Resende is going to underfill the car. That's a trademark strategy for him. That's been happening since season 1. He's going to be coming out, I'm pretty sure, ahead of the Porsche driver. Although, as I say that, he might not. But, you know, he's notorious for just saving a lot of fuel. Might be interesting to see if that's the strategy around here, because they just spent so much time under full throttle. Not a lot of
Yep,
space,
look at that.
as you can see. Look at how much he's going to underfuel.
So we saw for how many laps, for half the race essentially, how hard it is to overtake, how hard it is to complete an overtake, and how easy it is if you're that lead car to hold on to that position. So Resende, you said it's a trademark strategy of his at a track that we've already displayed for the past 27 minutes. You know, the lead car has the advantage in a lot of these overtaking battles. Similar, you know, clean air pretty much. You know what we talk about a lot in racing. That, you know, position ahead, you get to put the car where you want it because you're the first car into the corner. Resende, if he even is traveling at a slower pace to save fuel, he will be the car ahead. He kind of gets to dictate where Alcaraz can run.
Yeah, exactly, and that could really play a big factor. And part of the underfueling was just what you saw on your screen. You know, coming out of ahead of those slower cars, let's say those drivers that do not have the pace and unfortunately fell behind. Bruno Alcaraz did essentially what he needed to do, got past Angelo as fast as he could, and well, he's out. I mean, can just chase Jackson Resende right now, as Pedro de Oliveira is still out on the track. Bryce Rodriguez as well. Mikael Rudebusch still out on track. So Jackson Resende 10th place, 44 seconds. So that's how long the pit lane is. You detract 6 seconds, 7 seconds, around 30 something seconds. So it's a massive pit lane. And well, it looks like we do have another driver. Is that? Yeah,
That's
that's
Bryce
Bryce
Rodriguez.
Rodriguez.
Yep. Bryce Rodriguez coming down the pit lane in the 299 Lamborghini. He comes from the second position, and all eyes are on Rodriguez to see what happens with this 299 and where he comes out in relation to the likes of Resende and more. And you kind of get a nice overhead shot of pretty much pit out and all that jazz here at Silverstone. And that's another thing about pit entry or pit lane here at Silverstone is it's you know at an elevation change to the front straightaway. It's really hard to get a nice camera angle into there. We have Kevin Sandiego, Scott Kimbrough on the pit lane as well. Pit lane is busy. Pierre Thompson, William Valdez, Matthew Casey on the pit lane as well. We have Scott Angelo, Diego Ere, Rob Rodriguez, Dominique Angelico. There's so many drivers on the pit lane. This must be the lap where all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. So you could have some ice on the top two, essentially just diving into the pit lane any moment in time. Robert Rodriguez still in the pit cycle. Surprisingly, Bryce Rodriguez managed to come out ahead of Jackson Resende, so maybe that lack of pressure from Bruno Alcaraz allowed him to have a bit more pace. Maybe just underfueling the car again, and maybe Bruno Alcaraz just miscalculated the fuel. As Pedro de Oliveira, going to see if he's going to be diving in at this lap. 20
Here he
minutes to go.
comes.
Yes, there he goes. So the leader will finally pit, so that should allow Mikael Rudebusch and Guilherme Caratoni to follow him on the pits. We're gonna have to see if Mikael does follow, as Pedro de Oliveira, well, he has plenty. He has a massive gap, so it won't be a problem for him if he does lose a bit of time refueling the car. And well, now the question is, how much time did he lose, and can Mikael Rudebusch essentially come out ahead of those guys ahead of him, or will he just come out on the bottom end with those 4-car battle?
Also into the pit lane, Mikael Rudebusch, Guillermo Caratoni. As he said, everybody kind of, you know, pitting over that last lap or this lap. A majority of the drivers in this field will. It's going to be intriguing to see what the gap is when Oliveira finally leaves the pit lane in comparison to Rodriguez and Resende, who have been out there, you know, getting reacclimatized to their fuel loads, reacclimatized to how the car is handling after a little bit of a break in the rhythm you quickly develop in races like this. There goes the Oliveira already down and away, off at racing pace. Bryce Rodriguez, look at that, already coming into Abbey right here, or through Abbey into Farm and now into the loop.
Yeah, it looks like everybody kind of stayed in position. Jackson Rezende was the only one to gain position, and therefore Bruno Alcaraz was the only one to lose position on the pit cycle. Both of them trading, but as you can see, the top four is still quite close. Now, can Rodriguez still defend from Jackson Rezende on this final 20 minutes? How aggressive will Jackson be? How, I mean, defensive will Bryce be? I guess if he hasn't given up the position to Bruno Alcaraz on the start of the race, he definitely won't be giving up at the end of the race to Jackson Rezende.
Absolutely, Rodriguez is now tasked with, trying to fend off one of the trademark drivers in the North American Racing League over the past season and a half, in Jackson Resende. He tries to, get up to that second position to kind of, continue to carry the torch up there for full-time esports. And Rodriguez, pitted a lap later, so he's gonna have to get reclimatized to how the car feels, get back into that rhythm. Resende was out there, kind of getting that. For the most part, we're kind of set here, and we saw a lot of what happened in that first half of the race. But Resende, you got to also think his car is lighter. He may have to save fuel, but his car is lighter, and he's already up to speed. I guess at this point, they're both up to speed. They're well back into the rhythm. But I think the lighter car may have something to say in these final 17 and a half minutes.
Exactly. We're going to have to see which car is going to be better on the long run. Pedro de Oliveira lost quite a bit of time on those pit cycles. Definitely not going to matter, but it's going to be a question of which is the Lamborghini going to be better on this final stint. The Ferrari, maybe even the Porsche might come alive on the final stint. So it's just going to be how well have they nursed the tires. How obviously, as you mentioned, how light the car is. All that sort of stuff is going to be paying off at the end of the race. How well you nurse all of that. And how aggressive are you going to be?
Also, look at the gap between De Oliveira and Rodriguez. It is it's less than what it was before the pit stops. Under 4.5 seconds now, peaks over 4.5. But into the braking zone there of turn 3, you saw the gap dip under 4 seconds. Is this, the closest that Oliveira is to the rest of his competition? Now, I'm not saying that, there's going to be a change at the front of the field, but if Oliveira makes even a slight mistake, Rodriguez, Resende, they're not too far behind.
Yeah, 100%. But at this point in time, he might just be, managing the gap, just controlling the pace of the race. He knows he has the faster car. He knows he's the faster driver. So right now, there's no need to push for qualifying laps, risking an error. Might just be nursing, but, well, it's nearly 5 seconds as the gap keeps fluctuating between 4.7, 4.6 to 5 seconds. So the gap is there. And as soon as Bryce Rodriguez comes under pressure from Jackson Rezende to start the battle, that gap is only going to increase.
Let's go ahead and give some respect, of course, to the other category, the amateur category, the 166 of Mark Scott holding the torch in the amateur category, 10th position overall, and he's got about 3 seconds over his next closest competition in Pablo Ferretti in the 113 Ferrari. So it's not all said and done in amateur category, but what Mark Scott has as an advantage is he has pro drivers Brian DeVries and Beer Thompson as a buffer between himself and Pablo Ferretti, even if Ferretti has a pace advantage.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to have that buffer, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be trying to hold on for as long as possible on this 10th spot. Is a really, really good position to be in the top 10. And that's going to be a good haul of points for his team, Scott Racing. So if he can keep himself up, if he can keep those 2 pro drivers behind him, that's going to be a fantastic result. But obviously, at the end of the race, you can see the number 11, the 11th place car. He's just closing in now. He's just kind of sneaking in. Brian DeVries just sneaking back himself into the top 10 after that mistake from him. So if he can close up to this Lamborghini, well, could really pay off. Could really be a good recovery drive for him.
The other side of that is back to the side of Mark Scott. And what do you do if you get caught by, say, Brian DeVries? Do you battle Brian DeVries knowing how good 10th position could be for you? Knowing that if you keep DeVries behind, that's another couple car buffer you have to Pablo Ferretti. Or knowing that Ferretti is close, do you let DeVries through and think big picture here for the category? I don't know. It's tough decisions you got to make in the final 14 minutes of this race. And of course, if you're a racer at heart, which all of these guys are, obviously they wouldn't be here if they weren't. The racers at heart, you're not going to want to give up any position. But I mean, Mark Scott, you know, trying to get a class victory here at Silverstone in the amateur category, has some decisions to make. De Vries closing that gap. It's under a second. Last time we checked in on that margin.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I definitely would try to hold on to 10th places for as long as possible. You know, it's a really good result. It's a good haul of points. Even though I might be losing time to my amateur competitor, you know, it's a 2-car buffer. And obviously something can happen to him. So definitely, in my opinion, obviously try to hold on for 10th place. Only 13 minutes left. Could be around, what, 6, 7 laps? So not a lot of time, not a lot of laps left. So just try to hold on for as long as possible.
13 minutes remain, and you see again the battle for the amateur lead, split by a couple pro drivers. They're all in the same frame. The first car in frame there, Mark Scott in the 166 Lamborghini. The Ferrari of Pablo Ferretti, the blue and orange vehicle. You'll see the fourth car in frame back there, working his way to try to get this amateur category victory. There he is. The two pro drivers, Brian De Vries, Pierre Thompson. This is what's coming down in the waning minutes. A margin of what's coming about 3 seconds between Scott and Ferretti. The margin at the front of the field for the overall and pro victory, it's now over 5 seconds, nearly 5.5 seconds between Pedro de Oliveira and Bryce Rodriguez. Up front, Jackson Resende, now in third, has a hard-charging Bruno Alcaraz closing the margin. And you see it there. Look at how close Alcaraz is. What can Alcaraz do, knowing what it was to be on the other side of this battle?
So this is going to be interesting right now. So the Porsche has to make what he couldn't. So he has to overtake. Essentially what he couldn't do to Bryce Rodriguez, he's going to have to do with Jackson Resende. It's going to be interesting to see. Jackson might be very cool at the end of the race. You know, it was credit to nurse at the end. So with 10 minutes left, just 5 minutes of fuel at this part, you have 5 minutes of attack mode. Could pay off. So right now he has to essentially just fend off the pressure from Bruno Alcaraz. See, is starting to give up a little bit as that Porsche is looking very, very racy. He could be looking down the inside into the final sector, not quite. So this battle is only going to get better.
Absolutely, as the time drops, that timer continues to count down. Now 11 minutes left on the clock here in virtual Northamptonshire, United Kingdom. The Silverstone circuit putting on the battle once again, a multi-car battle. Remember when it was still a 4-car battle for second position, that is maintained through the pit cycle. Rodriguez has only 9/10 up on Jackson Resende under heavy attack from Bruno Alcaraz, who has another 9/10 back to Mikel Ruderbusch. This entire group of vehicles is only separated by about 2 seconds between Rodriguez and Ruderbusch. And you see it all there in frame, along with the lap vehicles further on back. And look at the margin between Ruderbusch and San Diego, I should say. You know, you look 7.5 seconds back off the race leader of De Oliveira for Mikel Ruderbusch, and 23 seconds for Kevin San Diego. It's almost like a whole other category. Just the margin these four and the race leader have broken away from the rest of the pro drivers compared to what we saw in practice, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So just lap after lap, if you can just build out that gap, essentially it's going to really pay off. Jackson Resende goes really wide on the exit of Cops. Is that was? Yes. So, and yeah, as you mentioned, the gap is really, really big. 16 seconds between those two. So, I mean, just prove how close this top four, essentially second to fifth, is this 4-car battle. As Mikel Ruderbusch kind of losing a bit of pace between compared to those 3 drivers ahead of him, but just class. I mean, that's just how close it is. And obviously, when you look at Kevin San Diego and Guilherme Carretoni, still 3 seconds between them, and then 1 second to Blake Scott. So it kind of just get close again. They do bunch up once again. So, I mean, close, even though they're separated in wide groups.
Absolutely. The waiting minutes. Resende on the defensive while trying to be on the attack. It's something you hear often, you know, in tight groups of vehicles like so. Resende trying to see what he can do, trying to see what he can Now he's under. Oh, and he gets hit from behind. Alcaraz
Oh,
sends Resende.
oh, and Zende kind of just avoids a massive crash. That's really good defensive driver, and unfortunately for him, he's going to be losing a lot of positions. Oh, does he come? Oh,
Oh
that's not a
no.
safe rejoin from Jackson Rezende. Kind of just frustration kicking in. That could have ended really badly for him. But oh, that was an interesting incident to happen. As you can see now, Mikael Rudebusch trying to capitalize on it, trying to get third place from Bruno Alcaraz. Cannot really get that close. Cannot really essentially line up for a dive. But well, that's gonna be an interesting one to look at the replay.
Well, let's go ahead. Let's try to figure out what happened there between Alcaraz and Resende. Have to go back a little bit here. We're able to get that queued up. We're gonna try that one more time to get the whole incident frame. It looked like netcode from the initial contact, but of course we'll be able to get another look at it here when it all happens. A little trouble getting that queued up. We will try that one more time. Here we go, and this should be it. We should get the whole battle here in frame from club corner and the run into the village, and we'll try to get an onboard shot here with Alcaraz. Okay, this is Rudebusch. We'll get on board here with Alcaraz, who was tailing the 225 Resende. Resende went defensive, and it was netcode.
Oh yeah, netcode. Yeah, so the Porsche driver just got a really good exit out of turns 1 and 2. Just so much more grip. Resende just trying to defend too hard from it. I mean, obviously he has to, but just a tiny bit of contact ended, unfortunately, not ended Jackson Resende's race, but ended his bid to fight for second place. And that 4-car battle turns into essentially a 2-car battle at this point, as Bryce Rodriguez has a healthy gap over the 244 driver, who kind of now may have a bit of damage. Not quite sure. I haven't really looked at the front end of that Porsche if he has any sustained damage. No, it looks like the front end is quite clean, so he has a perfect car to race, and well, he just has to defend from Mikael Rudebusch to hold on for that podium position.
Absolutely, and Rudebusch has fallen off a little bit now. He's going to continue to try to close that margin, but again, off to the... They're using all that runoff, by the way, as to kind of have all day, and I kind of like that. That's kind of, you know, an ode to, you know, not you know, getting rid of track limits or anything, but you know how difficult these cars are to wrestle around a track meant for F1 cars. They have to use the extremities of the track limits like that. You know, if you extend the left side or the outside tires all the way out, and keep, you know, the innermost tire, you know, has, I think, the limit of the outside curbing, which is, you know, some severe extension of the track limits to most series. You got to think, you know, on circumstances like this, and these big, you know, bulky vehicles. I know they're meant, you know, for road racing and all that, but you know, they're not meant for, you know, stringent track limits like we see in Formula One.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of makes a bit difficult to, as you mentioned, wrestle them around. And obviously, sometimes natural track limits do help out a bit more than artificial ones. If you just have grass or essentially gravel, like we do have in Brands Hatch, that kind of works really well with GT cars. You know, just a tighter track, and yeah. But I mean, they still make the show work, don't they, Emerson? The show really works, even though a track is not really meant for GT racing. I mean, it's still really fun to see those GT cars just wrestling around such a massive and wide track with big braking zones and high-speed corners.
Wanted to take another look here. This is Mark Scott in the 166. He is tailed by the 218 of Pierre Thompson. De Vries has gotten by, but since then, Pablo Ferretti has lost a bit of touch to Mark Scott. So I wanted to kind of touch base with the amateur race lead while we had the moments here in the waning minutes.
So as you mentioned, I mean, what a driver has been from Scott here, the 166 driver. Just, I mean, a solid drive, completely what he needed to bounce back after the Detroit last week. The Detroit race unfortunately ended quite abruptly for him and for his son Blake Scott. And both of them, unfortunately, were running the top 10. Looks like he unfortunately lost the position to Brian De Vries, who's doing a fantastic comeback after that massive crash that he had. And I mean, if he can keep this up for the final 4 minutes, that's going to be a huge result as his son is 7th place. So it's really going to propel Scott Racing up on the constructor standings, the team standings, and could really help him out. And obviously, this could be a turnaround point for his season. As you mentioned, this is the second part of the schedule of the season of NARL. And well, if he can just keep this up, it's going to be a really, really good finale for him.
Absolutely, and you know, we've had, you know, the break earlier in the season. We're gonna have another break next Thursday for Thanksgiving. So the way this league is set up, there's only 8 races, you know, this season, and then a couple breaks that were kind of scheduled. It's hard to get into a rhythm, you know, racing every Thursday and you know, kind of putting yourself up. So you kind of see that come into effect this season, and you'll kind of see that. You might see a little bit of, you know, differences when we're back here. Well, we're back live in a couple weeks' time from the Hungaro ring. You'll kind of see the similarities and the differences after, you know, everybody, you know, has, you know, eaten their Thanksgiving dinners and all that. And, you know, a couple weeks down the line into December, you know, cold or whatever. I don't know, you know, if that has any effect on anyone. But, you know, if say, you know, you need to race, you know, with cooler temperatures, and maybe, you know, the entire house is being, you know, ran on the heater into December, you know, that's something to think of as well. Just, you know, real life conditions and real life intricacies that, you know, have a life or a lot of wear on a season that's only 8 races long.
And that's a really good point that you mentioned, you know, the real life conditions, because obviously those drivers from the North Hemisphere, obviously the United States and Canada and even Mexico, well, they're going to be running on the winter at the end of the year. Your guys are already on winter, and
Right.
those drivers like Pedro de Oliveira, you know, Jackson Resende, even Matthew Dench, all of them are on the South Hemisphere. Obviously, both of them, Pedro de Oliveira and Jackson Resende, are in Brazil, and Matthew Dench is on Australia, if I'm not mistaken. So those guys are running on the summer. I'm right here, you know, pretty much the AC turned on to the max to trying to keep my cool down. And obviously these drivers are going to be doing the same. You know, you have to keep those temps down, having to control. And obviously with the heat, you're going to be losing quite a lot of fluid. So, you know, it could really be challenging for some of these drivers. And we know that some of them really do have a lot of championships. But, well, it's not slowing them down. As you can see, 2 drivers from different parts of the world. Blake Scott trying to defend from Guilherme Carretoni right here, who's trying to defend from Scott Kimbrough. So we do have, it looks like an American sandwich with a Brazilian meat on the middle.
I like that. That does seem to be the case. The I guess essentially the final lap has been started by Pedro de Oliveira, just because of how much time is left in the lap and where he is on the track. He's coming, of course, onto the Wellington Straight now, and there's still time on the clock. Technically, there's still 37 seconds, but he has technically started the final lap, and in about 30 seconds, he'll take the white flag presented by TucsonSoundArt.com. But what a drive from Pedro de Oliveira. He led, I mean, from wire to wire. I don't think he even lost the lead in the pit cycle because he hit it just so much later than everybody else. Pedro de Oliveira absolutely dominant. He only has a half lap to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Dominance is the right word. As you mentioned, he led every single lap. I'm not pretty sure if he has I'm pretty sure he has actually the fastest lap of the race. So this could be what in racing we call the Grand Chelem. I'm pretty sure. So he's going to be leading each and every single practice session, only one. He's going to get pole position. He's going to be leading every lap, and he's going to have the fastest lap time award. So, I mean, it cannot go better than him. That's going to be a huge haul of points. You know, pole position, win, and fastest lap. And it's just going to round off a perfect race. I would like to say a race weekend. It's not really a race weekend, but it's really a nice race for him as he rounds up the final few corners. Looks like that's going to be turn 15. Riding himself into the final sector, and that's going to be a win for him. Really controlled and well-paced win.
Into the final 3 corners. He works his way through the chicane and now into club corner. It's all been about Pedro de Oliveira, and on to the front straightaway. Pedro de Oliveira will win across the pond in Silverstone. Coming up for second, Bryce Rodriguez will have to hold on to a hard fight, hard charging Bruno Alcaraz for second and third in the pro category. We'll now find our way down the running order. We'll catch up with the amateur race leader down in 11th position overall, Mark Scott. He did lose that 10th position, of course, to Brian DeVries. He got Fabio Zamperlini. Remember where he was, by the way, Fabio Zamperlini. And he's looking to come home in the 12th position if he can navigate these final 3 corners. Here comes Mark Scott out of Vale and on his way to club. Mark Scott will win the amateur category here at Silverstone.
A perfect drive as well from Mark Scott. Just a small mistake on the Chapel section, on the exit, on the entry and exit of Chapel, just getting a small, as you can see, those 2 Scott Racing cars. It's a perfect race result. And that's going to be Pedro de Oliveira. Is he going to be burning it down? He's going to be turning off the traction control in that Lamborghini. Are we going to see a burnout for him? No. Well, that... no. But, yeah, perfect race for him. Cannot wait to talk to him. And, well, that's what's next.
That is what's next. Don't you go anywhere. We will have post-race interviews, post-race reactions, race results, upcoming broadcasts, and more fun post-race stuff from the North American Racing League. Round number 5 here at the Silverstone circuit. A dominant drive from Pedro de Oliveira in the pro and overall wins. And of course, Mark Scott with the amateur category. We'll be talking to them and a couple others on the far side of this break. Don't you go anywhere. We'll be back here in virtual Northamptonshire, Silverstone, England.
Sound art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it sound art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
SoundArt introduces an entirely new way to listen to music in your home. By combining the best of 2 products, a revolutionary high-fidelity, low-profile Bluetooth wireless speaker with beautiful artwork. Select from a library of artwork or upload your own photos to personalize your experience. SoundArt ushers in an era of invisible, beautiful, and amazing sound throughout your home and redefines your entire entertainment system. The need to reclaim your floor space and rid your home of unsightly speaker boxes that need to be bolted to the wall is now a thing of the past. Our canvas is printed on high-quality permalite by Breathing Color. And select from our gallery or upload your own. Standard sizes include 16 by 20 and 18 by 24 canvas wrapped. Custom sizing is available, as well as surround sound options.
Have you found yourself trying to hide your joy because you're unhappy with your teeth? Your smile is the first feature noticed in an interview, on a date, or in family photos. We want you to be able to shine bright as your best self, and our teeth whitening system is the perfect step toward restoring your confidence.
Welcome, race fans, back to the virtual Northamptonshire Silverstone, England. We're here at, of course, the beautiful Silverstone circuit that played host to an amazing race tonight for the North American Racing League in their 5th round of 8 here at Silverstone. And it was all about Pedro de Oliveira and the dominance that he put on today. He's standing by, of course, with João Paulo Costa. We'll try to get him on in here, and JP is standing by with him.
Então, Pedro, putz, como é bom falar contigo de volta. Semana passada não foi a melhor corrida pra você, né? Mas, poxa, esse é um jeito de voltar com tudo, né?
Boa noite, João. Boa noite a todo mundo que tá assistindo. Good night, everybody. Cara, semana passada foi muito duro. Foi um golpe muito duro porque eu treinei bastante e eu não consegui imprimir um ritmo bom durante a corrida. E eu sofri alguns acidentes ali, a maioria por culpa minha, responsabilidade minha. E me colocou numa situação meio que em xeque no campeonato, apesar de eu ter uma pequena vantagem para o Matthew. A forma como é feito o campeonato, a pontuação é muito, muito próxima, né? Então, qualquer pontinho perdido, ele ganhou e eu cheguei em 8º, então foi meio que desastrosa a situação. E eu vim decidido que essa tinha que ser minha etapa. E foram 27 horas de VRS ao longo da semana. Contando todos os meus practices, foram horas e horas e horas e horas e horas. Eu tô exausto, eu tô muito cansado, mas eu queria provar para mim mesmo que o ritmo tá aqui. E eu vim com tudo para essa etapa. Desde a classificação eu acertei minha melhor volta, foi a minha melhor volta de todas. Mas eu sabia que o ritmo era forte. Então eu vim muito confiante, confiança lá em cima, sabia que o carro era bom e sabia que era difícil de guiar no final da corrida, era muito traseiro. E eu consegui abrir a vantagem que eu precisava para conseguir ser menos agressivo e trazer essa vitória para casa. Então é muito bom pro campeonato, é muito bom para minha confiança. Individualmente falando, eu tenho sofrido ao longo das etapas, apesar dos resultados positivos, um pouco com a falta de confiança devido à troca de equipamento. Então tenho treinado cada vez mais para estar apto a desempenhar o que dá para ser, e hoje foi um exemplo disso. Então torcer para que nas próximas eu continue nesse ritmo para que a gente siga forte no campeonato. Queria agradecer a todo o pessoal da Full Time, em especial ao Gustavo Ariel, hoje é o brasileiro com maior iRating, inclusive está entre o top 20 de iRating no mundo, que me ajudou muito durante a semana, nos treinos, em algumas dicas. Então isso é muito para ele também. E agradecer a toda a equipe e aos patrocinadores, a B8 Seguros e a Logitech.
Show de bola. Eu falei na transmissão aqui que pra mim você é o cara, como se fosse um fim de semana da Fórmula 1, você ia ser o senhor do sábado, né? Qualify parece que é contigo. Se eu não me engano, você tem todas menos uma pole até agora, então pra mim você vai ser o novo Jorjão da Massa, que nem a gente fala na Fórmula 1, né? Mas cara, show de bola ver você com esse ritmo. Eu imagino que você está cansado quase 1h da manhã aqui no Brasil, né?
Exato.
Então, eu também tô cansado aqui, mas poxa, cara, é bom te ver assim, sabe? É bom ver esse ritmo e, bom, se continuar com isso aí, poxa, o campeonato é teu, né? Porque pelo jeito parar você hoje foi impossível.
Tem excelentes pilotos nessa categoria, tem excelentes pilotos assim de verdade. São caras muito rápidos. O próprio Scott, o Matthew, o De Vries, o Bryce, muita gente para ficar elencando, o Jackson também. E assim, são nomes que a gente precisa, como adversário, a gente precisa tomar cuidado e garantir que a gente sempre está um passo à frente, porque se a gente piscar, eles dão um bote, então é muito importante tudo isso. Então estou muito feliz, muito animado. E vamos lá. Apesar. Hoje foi um quali um pouquinho diferente. Hoje eu acertei a volta nos outros, assim, tudo bem, eu fiz a pole, mas era muito apertado, tudo sempre muito apertado. Hoje que desandou positivamente para mim. Mas é isso. Muito obrigado. Obrigado à organização da North American. E é isso. Muito obrigado. Boa noite a todo mundo.
Show de bola, Pedro. Boa noite aí, bom descanso e espero te ver na próxima aí.
Obrigado. See ya, guys. Thank you. Good night.
Well, that was it, Emerson. That was quite a long interview, but I mean, quite a few points to touch upon. So obviously he mentioned last week, it wasn't the best result for him. It wasn't the perfect week. He said he had a few incidents, a few accidents, nearly all of them of his fault. So he took responsibility, and the points, obviously, as we touched on the beginning of the broadcast, really do mix it up. It really does mix it up. So a bad weekend can really just ruin your championship bid. But yeah, when we talk about this week, the pace, I mean, he put 27 hours into practice on VRS. Yeah, that's 27 hours when you do everything. So that's a lot of practice to master qualifying, to master race pace. And obviously, he put his best lap time of the whole 27 hours on qualifying. So whenever it mattered, he was there to essentially capitalize on it. And well, 0.4 of a second ahead of second place, not something we're used to seeing here in the NARL. And he knew, obviously, due to all of that practice, that the car was getting really tricky at the end. The car was losing a bit of the backhand. The tires were a bit going a bit. So he knew that based on practice. And obviously, right now, he said himself, this is really good for his self-esteem, his self-confidence, because he changed equipment, and so kind of suffering still from that, the period that you have to adapt from one another. So this is really good. And well, he hopes he can get a good championship bid, obviously respecting a lot of the competitors, Bryce, Jackson Resende, Matthew Dench. He knows that, they can really bounce back on a snap of a finger. So, and well, he looks quite confident for the next race, and only time will tell if it's going to pay off. He's really tired, obviously nearly 1 a.m. here in Brazil. So, I mean, it was a long week for him, but definitely paid off.
Absolutely, and it looked like it did. Utter dominance, absolute pace advantage from the field. You mentioned it, a grand slam. We call that in motorsport. Winning practice, qualifying, fastest lap, all the laps in the race, the race win. Utter dominance, a grand slam for Pedro de Oliveira. You heard it there from JP Costa, of course, covering that, and now we'll get to, of course, talk to second place overall, second place in the pro category as well, Bryce Rodriguez, and we're going to bring him on in here. And Bryce, you were kind of hovering all throughout, the top five there, second, third, fourth, through that area most of the race tonight. Of course, you started in third, you were up there in second there at the end. Talk about how hard it was to be on the attack and to be on the defense against, some of the series heavyweights like Alcaraz and Resende all throughout the evening.
Yeah, I would say it was extremely difficult. I wasn't really sure my pace was going to be in qualifying, but I tried to just drive as smooth as I could, and I ended up in, P3? And then start of the race, I was really trying to be as close as I could be to Pedro at the start, and almost had a few opportunities going into the first section of corners, but then, cold tires, we were sliding all over the place, and then maybe a quarter into lap, he just started to pull away. Extremely quick today. I don't know how he does it, but he's very, very quick. And then from there, a gap opened up, and then I had to start defending from Bruno. He was putting on a lot of pressure for the first stint, and I was defending a bit. I think he made one move that I was kind of defending on the inside, and then I had that pit stop, came out in front of him, and then towards the end of the race, I was getting a bit more pressure from Resende as well. I saw him go off. I'm not really sure what happened there. And then I had more pressure from Bruno at the end because a back marker was kind of split in between us. So he gained a ton of time on me, and then the last few laps were super intense because I was really pushing the limit, and he was right there behind me, and I just came out in second place. So,
well, we look at it, Bryce, and you came into today's race 5th in the point standings in the pro category, 21 points back of Pedro de Oliveira. Of course, between, I guess, yourself and Oliveira, that may be a long shot, but we're talking the improvements you made in the point standings just tonight. Matthew Dent, of course, had a falling out. Scott Reister finished down in the 14th position overall. That should be a good haul of points in your direction there. And then now you're looking towards Mikhail Ruderbusch up ahead of you in the point standings coming into tonight. We could be talking second or third place for you in the point standings heading into 3 races remaining at the Hungaroring. What do you think that says about you? Do you think, is that where you intended, or where you felt you could have been at this point of the season?
That's kind of hard to say. I remember my first race, I didn't do so well, so it kind of set me back. I really wasn't able to show my true pace. Kind of just going with the flow here and just trying to be really as consistent as possible. Not trying to make any, dumb decisions that will put me down in the point standing. So as long as I'm, in that top 10, top 5, I'll be happy. I'm really a big fan of Hungaroring. I think that's a really great track, super hard for overtaking. So obviously for the races to come, I'm just going to try to be as consistent as possible and also trying to finish in that top 5. Whether I'll be able to finish, in the champion standings in the top 3, we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, let's get a little specific coming up with the Hungaroring. We go from one Formula 1 track to the other, a newer track to the service. How do you feel about your, I guess, potential at the Hungaroring, what you bring to the table, and where you might end up there?
I would say I feel great about the track. I've done the official series multiple times. I've had some great battles there, and this track goes back for me to the Codemasters F1 game. I've been driving this track for years now, and it's for sure up there with my favorites. It's like a Monaco in a way, and I think the flow is great. I love the back chicane, and with the Lamborghini, which I'll be using, I think the rotation is just really awesome, and I really just have a joy driving that track, so I'm expecting to finish, in a decent position.
Well, Bryce, second place overall, second place in the pro category. Nothing, to shrug off or anything. A phenomenal drive from you tonight. De Oliveira was pretty much on his own planet, but the amount of defending you had to do and the attacks you had to go among some of the series best was a phenomenal drive tonight, Bryce. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
We'll give you the floor here to shout out. You've got a shout out, thank you for the thank. And I hear you have a cool YouTube channel. You should plug that as well.
I do, yes. Thank you. Should I plug it in the chat or?
Yeah, you can do that, but this is your time to kind of talk about it and shout out whoever you got to thank.
Yeah, it's Bryce Evolution. I have this for a while now. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make a hot lap guide of Silverstone. Just been super caught up. That's probably becoming tomorrow. I don't know if that's going to be as useful now that the race is over, but yeah, that's going to be coming soon. And obviously, the race highlights for this race. Hopefully, I can get that out by this weekend. So I do post race highlights for every single race, and I try to cover just exactly what's going on. And sometimes I put the commentators in there as well in the beginning. So I think you'll be in that video as well.
Right on. Well, you love to hear it, Bryce. Well, I appreciate all you do for your YouTube channel. That's a cool channel, Bryce Evolution. Go ahead and check that out for yourselves. Once we're done here with the NARL post race. And for you, Bryce, congratulations once again on the second place finish, and best of luck to you at the Hungaroring.
Yep. See you soon.
That was Bryce Rodriguez, their second place finisher in the number 299 Lamborghini. A great run for him. I'm not sugarcoating that by any means. That was a tough drive, and he was up for the challenge, and he finished second. He was able to fight through for it. And JP, now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna talk to how about amateur race winner Mark Scott in the 166, who went toe to toe with some of the pro drivers tonight. How about it?
So looks like Pablo Ferretti is going to be joining in first. So Pablo, quite a quiet race for you. You were kind of chasing Mark Scott at one point in time. How was your race? It was kind of a bit quiet, on the middle part, but how difficult it is to run a GT car on Silverstone.
Well, it's really hard for me. The Ferrari is not my favorite car, so I was learning on the pass in this week training. I lose the tire really soon, trying to chase Mark, and then realized that he was a pro class, so I let him go and try to catch Mark, but his pace was much faster than me. So I took the second place and tried to stay alive until the end.
When we talk about these different classes, do you feel like, if you had to, thinking about the point systems, how, how do you attack this? Do you defend from pro drivers in certain situations? Do you attack them, or do you just stay in your own class? If, they're behind you, you just let them go. But, how do you tackle that?
It depends on the pace. If he's lapping at the same speed that I am at the same time, I will try to attack them. If they are faster, I will let them go and try to take the draft for a couple of laps. And if I have another pro in my front and he's lower, of course I will try to pass him. That's my rule, a simple one.
Well, it's a simple rule, but it's really effective, if just picking your own battles, and that's something you really have to do. And I mean, you came quite close to winning the amateur class. I mean, was Silverstone your strong track, or do you feel like you can excel at some other ones?
Personally, I don't like Silverstone. I hate it. So it was a huge challenge for me tonight. My favorite racetrack is Watkins. I took the P1 on the qualify for my class on that race, and I lose the car all by myself, so I screw my better track race. Silverstone is really challenging because of the fast turns. I have a lot of problems taking it at good pace, so it's really hard to keep the Ferrari straight when you don't have all the tires on it.
Well, being on a track that you hate with a car that you don't really like and finishing second place, it's a really good result, isn't it? But when we look forward to next week, the next round, essentially at Hungaroring, how are you feeling? Which car are you going to choose? What's going to be the strategy there?
I'm choosing between the Ferrari. I will try the McLaren and the Lamborghini too. I think that Hungaroring needs a good rotation car. It's a brand new track for me. Never raced there before, so I have a lot of practice for this week, and I hope to finish in the top 5 of my class. That's the goal.
Well, that's really achievable goal, and I really do hope you achieve it. Hopefully, we're going to be talking to you next time around in Hungaroring. But before I let you go, who do you have to thank? Who do you have to shout out?
Sorry, I didn't understand that.
Who do you have to thank? Do you have any sponsors, any friends, family that you want to thank?
Of course, first of all, my family that gave me the time to practice because I have little kids, a wife, a job, and special thanks to my team, SDS Racing Team, because we're training together. Radames is another new driver that is racing here with us. Tonight he had an accident and had to quit the race, but we try to learn together and spend some time. So really thanks to them.
I'm pretty sure they're happy with your result. And well, as I mentioned, hopefully we can talk to you next week. I hope you have a safe night, and well, see you soon.
Thank you. Good night.
Well, Emerson, that was Pablo Ferretti. I'm really happy with his result. I mean, started 20th and finished in 13th place, so got 7 positions on the race. And I mean, on a car that he doesn't like and a track that he hates, that's going to be really good. But I'm going to be passing you to our amateur winner.
And that is right. We have our amateur winner, Mark Scott, coming up to join us here and with the amateur class victory, 11th position overall. But Mark, you were up there. You started 15th and you were as high as 7th pretty early on in the running tonight. How was it in your eyes and in your mind working your way in some dense, pro driver traffic? We're going to try one more time to see if we can get Mark with us here in the booth. Mark, you got a copy? It appears that we do not have Mark Scott to comment on his amateur class victory tonight. So, unfortunate circumstances there, but Mark Scott, of course, with the amateur class victory, it was quite a run that he had put on. Again, starting from 15th, and it was, I think, only 10 minutes in, he was up to 7th. And among some of the better drivers in the series, and being an amateur driver in the middle of those pro drivers is no joke. And of course, he had to, fend off some hard charging drivers like Brian DeVries as well, en route to his 11th place overall finish, and of course the class victory. But JP, I think it's time we should go through some race results now that we're at it, and let's go ahead and see how everybody came to the line through all of a grab bag of strategies and the spins. Not as hectic as the second half of Detroit, I should say, but nonetheless, still a lot to go through. And let's start with, of course, Pedro de Oliveira with the overall and the pro category victory. He has 6.5 seconds, the margin of victory he had over Bryce Rodriguez. Bruno Alcaraz comes home in third. Mikael Ruderbusch fourth. Jackson Rosende will finish off in the 5th position. Kevin Sandiego there in 6th. Blake Scott 7th. Guillermo Garetoni there in 8th. Scott Kimbrough 9th. And Brian DeVries will round out the top 10, JP.
In 11th place, we're going to have Mark Scott, who unfortunately we couldn't hear from. Fabio Zamperlini doing a comeback drive to finish in 12th place. Really good drive from him. Pablo Ferretti, who we talked to in 2nd place in the amateur class in 13th. Scott Reiser is going to be finished off in 14th, just ahead of William Coffey, ahead of William Valdez in the 128. Mike Braun is going to be finished off in 17th place. Diego Ere in 18th. Joshua Benjamin in 19th place. And Matthew Casey in 20th place. Still, no drivers a lap down in the top 20. Just shows how close this field was today.
Absolutely. This field came to play tonight. Scott Angelo there in the 21st position. Sonny Brown in 22nd. Rob Rodriguez, 23rd. Chris Winstone, 24th. Dominic Anglacillo in 25th. Clarence Rosa in 26th. Armando Bejeron, 27th. And Daniel Hall, the last driver on the lead lap in 28th. Pierre Thompson had some troubles there in the middle part of the race. He'll come home 29th, the first driver 1 lap down. And Radames Rodriguez will be in 30th, 1 lap down, JP.
In 31st place, we're going to have Jeff Castillo, again 1 lap down. Sean Patterson in 32nd place. Brian Long in 33rd place. Johnny Jones in 34th. Kenneth Michael is going to be in 35th. Billy Bowerman 5 laps down in 36th place. And unfortunately, Matthew Dench, our last week winner, is going to be finished off 37th place, 19 laps down.
And that's how all 37 came to the line tonight. And definitely the tale of a couple of different races. It was good to be back with the 50-minute race. The 60-minute race was very intriguing at Detroit, and the way it worked out with the couple pit stops, and pretty much after that first pit stop, when we got into the middle portion, towards the end of the first stint, the second stint, Detroit, there was a lot of calamity. So I think that kind of showed tonight that tonight was a much more calmer race. We had the action at the start of the race, but really it was here pretty much that last pit, the pit stop to the end. We kind of saw the real positions of where these drivers were going to finish. There wasn't too much. Of course, we had the net-coded incident between Resende and Alcaraz, but other than that, a relatively clean race tonight, JP. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, just another great race. Unfortunately, Silverstone on GT cars, I guess, doesn't provide that many overtaking opportunities, but still, we did see plenty of overtaking opportunities, and I mean, it was just another great drive. Great race for NARL, and I mean, next time around in Hungaroring, that's gonna be tricky. As Bryce Rodriguez mentioned, it's essentially Monaco without the barriers, so it's gonna be difficult to overtake, but it's gonna be an interesting challenge for each and every single driver. And looking at how much practice Pedro de Oliveira put in, I mean, some drivers are really gonna be having to step up if they want to keep the championship hopes alive.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot to look forward to with the race coming up at the Hungaroring in a couple weeks time, and more coming up on the channel. We have a couple more broadcasts before we take a little bit of a break for Thanksgiving. Sunday night we have the Superior Class Auto Racing GT1 series at Lime Rock Park. That should be a blast with those GT1 vehicles. 8:45 p.m. Eastern Sunday evening. You won't want to miss that. And then Monday night, the BRPI Racing series with their 3rd race of the season from Lima Land, 8 p.m. Eastern. You won't want to miss that. And then that's where pretty much our Thanksgiving break will start. We'll pick things back up the following Monday with Weed Sport at 8 p.m. Eastern for the 4th race of the BRP iRacing series, and the dirt big blocks in full swing in the BRP iRacing series. But we have Scar on Sunday night with Lime Rock Park. A nice little slate of races we got to wrap up. And then we get, that week off for Thanksgiving. We're back at it with Weed Sport, and then we'll keep things rolling then with Outlaws, and then we'll be back with the North American Racing League here at the Hungaroring. That should be December 1st, a couple Thursdays from now. But of course, JP, you can find all of the updates from all of our social media outlets about all of the series that we mentioned there on the upcoming broadcast. Why don't you go ahead and tell us all about them?
Well, obviously, you can follow us on Facebook.com/PitStopTV, on Twitter.com for some amazing shots and live coverage. Tonight was brought to you by Trey Shuttlesworth. You can also follow us on Instagram.com at /pit_stop_TV. And obviously, live coverage from our YouTube channel at youtube.com/PitStopTV1. And, well, Emerson, it's always fun, and I'm pretty sure you should follow us on each and every single social media.
Absolutely that, and our Twitch at twitch.tv/pit_stop_TV, which is where we were also live to tonight. Of course, we couldn't do it with all of the amazing partners here at the North American Racing League, like Race Lab, which helps you helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. JS Consulting provides custom website and app development, including iRacing League website design and hosting. Find JS Consulting at johnsedlak.com. And of course, Sam Liveries offers custom packages for some of the best livery designs in iRacing, used by pros and amateurs. You will definitely look good on the track with a Tam livery. And of course, all of our partners here at PitStopTV. We have to give a huge shout out, of course, to Tucson Sound Art. Your picture, your music. Use code PitStopTV at checkout for 10% off of your wall-mounted sound art device today. PitStopTV broadcasts are also brought to you by Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine. You deserve the best care that money can buy. Also presented by Whiplash Media, the official graphic and camera provider of PitStopTV. And of course, BAM Racing Videos, by a race fan for the racing community. And yeah, I think that's going to do it here from across the pond here in Silverstone. We're happy to have had you all here tuning in and joining us for tonight's action. We hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. For all at PitStopTV, João Paulo Casa alongside me on the mic this evening, Trey Shuttlesworth on social media. I'm Emerson Arn, filling in for Andrew Cardinal the Fourth. He's usually here. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Have you found yourself trying to hide your joy because you're unhappy with your teeth? Your smile is the first feature noticed in an interview, on a date, or in family photos. We want you to be able to shine bright as your best self, and our teeth whitening system is the perfect step toward restoring your confidence.